Today I wanted to share with you some of the most commonly asked questions I get about traveling to Ireland. The first question is it expensive to travel to Ireland? Well, that depends on your definition of expensive. It's really like anywhere you go. There are expensive options and there are budget-friendly options. A couple things that go into your budget for Ireland is going to be the time of year. During the popular time in the summer, you're going to be paying top dollar. And yes, it is going to be expensive. If you travel during the off season, then you can for sure do it on a budget. I would say meal prices at restaurants are about the same as the US. I live just south of Minneapolis, and I would say that the prices were pretty relative to here. Where you're going to save money in restaurants and pubs is going to be tipping. In the United States, it is expected to tip around 20%. In Ireland, tips are not expected. Are they appreciated? For sure, but they're not expected. And if you do tip, it's usually around 10%. So that right there will save you a ton of money. If you're on a budget, you could plan some evenings to go to the grocery store or the gas station and pick up some food there. Another thing to consider are going to be your accommodations. You can stay in a hostel for about 10 to 20 euros, which is super budget friendly, or you can stay in a luxurious castle for $2,000 a night. It's really up to you what accommodations you want to do. So you have hostels on one end and luxurious castles on the other, and everything in between. The majority of the time we got breakfast included with our accommodation, so that saved us money too for meals. I think the hospitality you receive in Ireland is worth every penny that you spend, whether it's restaurants or accommodations. When you think about getting around in Ireland, there is public transportation, which will be a little bit cheaper than if you decide to rent a car. The renting the car piece isn't as expensive. It's the insurance that you get to go along with the rental car. And if you've driven in Ireland, the peace of mind of having the top end of the insurance is worth it, in my opinion. But if you're on a budget, you don't have to. I mean, I guess you can chance it and not get as much insurance. So it's up to you. One way to save costs is to go with someone or a group of people, and you can share costs. My mom, sister, and I went in October of 2023, and I will show you what our budget looked like. We weren't on the top end of the budget, but we weren't on the cheap end either. I would say we were somewhere in the middle, more on the top of the middle. But here's what we spent. Our airfare was $940. We went with Delta, and we did the main cabin. I think you can get it for a little cheaper if you don't care where you sit and you don't care if you need to cancel or switch or any of that type of stuff. All of our accommodations for those nights was totaling around $1,088. Some nights were more expensive than others. It was definitely under $100 per night per person. The car rental was $936. And we split that between 3, so you're looking at $312 for a 14-day period. Our food was $380 a person. Now, I think we saved quite a bit in food because our breakfast was usually included, and we had one other big meal, and then really snacks in between. Souvenirs, you can really spend however much you want to spend on souvenirs. We spent about $200 a person, I would say. Maybe a little bit more. The gas, tolls, and entry fees into different parks and whatnot was $110 a person. So if you add all that up, you're looking at just over $3,000 US dollars per person for a 14-day trip. Under $10,000 for 3 people for 14 days, I think is pretty darn good. One of the big questions I hear is, when is the best time to visit Ireland? I would say either October or November or March and April. This is because things will be cheaper at that time and they're also still going to be open. You're also going to see less crowds. Depending on your criteria, though, September and May also be a good option. It will be less expensive than the summer months, which you're looking at June, July, and August. These will be the busiest and the most expensive time to visit. It may be less rainy, and it will be a little bit more lush green, but weather is never a guarantee in Ireland. Boat tours don't typically run during the winter months, and they may close as early as September. So if you have your heart set on a boat tour, then I would recommend going either in the summer months or going late spring or early fall. In the summer months, there are more people, so it will take you longer to get to places, and it will be more crowded, so it'll take you a little bit longer to go through some of the attractions. I can't stress enough to check the websites before you go. And you can call or email them and ask when they will be open or closed. Even though I know this, I have still got caught every trip I've gone to where I thought something would be open and it wasn't. And sometimes you drive an hour out of your way to go to these places, and if they're not open, you just lost 2 hours where you could have done something different. So check the websites. If you're only planning a trip in the summer because you think it will be nicer, I would not do that. We were there in July one year and it was rainy the whole time we were there. So you can't rely on the time of year for the weather. So do not use that as a way to decide when you're going to go. Related to this question is my next one, which is, how many days should you plan for an Ireland vacation? I would plan no less than 10 days. And remember, you will have travel days. I would say 10 to 14 days will give you a decent amount of time for a really great itinerary. Ireland is the kind of place that you will want to come back to time and time again. I'm already planning my 4th trip there. You will never see everything you want to see in one trip. And there will be places you will want to spend more time and come back to do that. So be prepared when you go to Ireland for the first time that it won't be your last time. One of the questions I get is, what should I bring? I do have a whole video on what to pack to Ireland, so I will put that in the description if you want a more detailed video. I will talk about some of my must-haves though. Layers are going to be your best friend when you're in Ireland because you will see every season in a day. You will have rainy weather, sunny, cold, windy. So if you have layers, you can always take something off or you can put something back on to stay warm. If I could spend my money on anything, it would be a good quality raincoat. You want to stay dry while you're there because it can be kind of damp and cold. And if you're wet and cold, it's not a good combination. So if you have a good raincoat, then you will stay dry. I also bring rain pants, which are dual purpose. So it will keep you dry, but it will also keep you warm when it's super windy and you're on the coastline or you're visiting the cliffs or anywhere. They will keep you nice and dry and warm. And of course, I would bring an umbrella, especially when you're wanting to go from your car to the restaurant or you want to walk from your hotel to the restaurant and you don't want to get drenched. You just want to hold your umbrella and stay nice and dry. Another place where I would spend my money is a good pair of shoes. So you'll want to look for a waterproof shoe or a bog-proof shoe to keep your feet dry and comfortable. Because you don't want rain boots that are uncomfortable. That would be miserable. Your feet may be dry, but if they're not comfortable, then that's no good. I'd also bring extra socks, and wool socks would be my preference. You're not going to want to bring a big bag because the cars are a lot smaller, so you're not going to be able to fit a huge piece of luggage and your carry-on and a backpack. So I like to just travel with a carry-on and a backpack. Another thing is you don't know how far you're going to have to walk to get to your room, or you may have to take stairs because they don't have a lift. You want to take what you can manage and carry yourself. Next question is, how much cash should you bring? Honestly, I paid everything with my credit card. The only time I really wanted cash was to have €2 coins to throw down at the table for a tip, or like €5 to pay for parking. Sometimes at the sites, there's a little pay box. Make sure that the credit card you're using doesn't charge you extra fees to convert from euro to US dollars. My recommendation would be to bring smaller bills or coins of cash as opposed to the bigger bills. You're not going to need a €100 bill. You can use your credit card for bigger purchases. So what is the difference between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland? The island of Ireland is split into two different jurisdictions: the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. The Republic of Ireland is an independent nation. It's commonly referred to as simply Ireland, while Northern Ireland is a part of the United Kingdom. Another thing you'll notice is when you're driving, the Republic of Ireland uses kilometers, while Northern Ireland is in miles. They do both drive on the left side, though. For currency, one uses euros, the Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland uses sterling pounds. There are no physical border crossings. You don't have to show your passport when you're crossing over. Some rental cars may charge you a fee if you rent in Republic of Ireland and go into Northern Ireland. So just check. Speaking of rental cars, another question I get is, do I have to rent a car? The short answer is no, you don't have to rent a car. You can use public transportation like buses, trains, taxis, or you can take tours out of major cities. However, you are limited to the schedules of those different transportation methods. While it is possible to see Ireland without renting a car, I think you miss out on the more unique experiences that Ireland has to offer. I have done both. The first trip we used public transportation. We used the trains, the buses, we took a couple tours, we did a taxi in a few places. We were able to see a lot of Ireland, especially for our first time visiting, without renting a car. That's what worked best for us because none of us felt comfortable renting a car at the time. And it was in 2007. What is that? 17 years ago. The next two times we did rent a car because there were places we didn't get to see when we went the first time, and we wanted to go back and go and spend more time at the different locations. If you're flying into Dublin and you plan to kind of stay in that area or take tours, then I would not rent a car. I would not want to drive in the city of Dublin. It's just, I don't think I would be comfortable with that. And you don't have to. There's so many options for public transportation when you're in the bigger cities. If you want to see the countryside, then yes, you should rent a car. You should see the countryside. It is just beautiful. You do have to do what's comfortable for you. But if you go out of your comfort zone and rent a car, you won't be disappointed. What airport should you fly into? I've actually flown into 3 different airports. The first time, like I said, was in 2007, and we flew into the Shannon, Limerick area airport. If you're going to be on the West Coast mainly, then that would be a great spot to fly into. The second time, we flew into Cork. Now, we were coming from London, so that was a great option for us. It's going to be more expensive, and I don't think there are many flights that fly into Cork from the United States, which is why the third time we went, we flew into Dublin. Now, this was our third time going, so renting a car out of Dublin wasn't as bad because we had already had the experience of Cork, which is much smaller, quaint, cute, easy to get in and out of if you haven't driven in Ireland. Dublin is a little trickier to drive out of. It took us about an hour to drive out of the city limits. It was raining. I don't know what it's like all the time, but there was a lot more traffic and a lot bigger roundabouts and more lanes of traffic to get through. But once we were out of Dublin, it was awesome because it was nice, cute roads. Some are quite small. When you drive out of Dublin, there is a toll on M50 that reads your license plate. Check with your rental agency. I know ours paid for it. Our rental car agency paid for it, so we didn't have to worry about it. Double check that because you have to pay it by the next day. Last question I get a lot of is, where should I visit in Ireland? I do have a video on my favorite places to visit in Ireland, and this is based on my experience, so I'm sure there's many more places that I haven't been to that are fabulous. I will be traveling to Northern Ireland in a couple months, so I'm excited to add some of my favorites from that area, so stay tuned for that. There's so many places I could recommend to you, and these are just a few. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want any tips on places, more places to visit. Comment below if you have any further questions or want to know more about different places. And remember, all of this stuff is my opinion and based on my experience. If you have anything to add based on your experience on any of those topics, I'd love you to comment and share your experience. I hope if you're planning a trip to Ireland that this gives you a little bit more information and helps you be more comfortable traveling there. And thanks so much for watching.